Welcome to the week 2 go-to session. This is the second session of 4 we're holding this month. Thanks to those who are in attendance. Let's get rolling, okay? So welcome to week 2. Just a quick update. You all handed in your week 1 worksheet on Sunday night, correct? I'm still grading those. We instructors aim for a 72-hour turnaround time. Actually, it's a little bit less than that. Students hand things in, a major assignment, typically on Sunday at midnight Eastern. And then we instructors have until Wednesday at 5 p.m. So kind of like business hours. Wednesday at 5 p.m. So 3 full business days to get things graded. So I'm still grading worksheets. You need my feedback, okay? So here's week 1. You've already completed week 1, right? You did your week 1 journal. I enjoyed reading those. I like learning more about the students who are in my classes. The Achieve module, okay? That interactive thingy that I showed in real time how it worked in the week 1 session. Oh, we got a second person in attendance, the transcriber. Okay, so we still hoping more people will show up. Okay, but yeah, you did an Achieve module for week 1, and then the major activity was this guy here, the week 1 worksheet. That's what I'm grading right now, and yeah, I might have to burn the midnight oil to get those graded by 5 p.m. tomorrow, but they will be done. And you need feedback on this worksheet. Why? Because remember, the worksheet has lots of questions, but I think I stressed this in the first lecture, that the most important prompt, right? There are a whole bunch of prompts to answer, but the most important one to me is the final one. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to look at your worksheet as a whole, but definitely I'm paying super attention to that final prompt, the one that asks you to take 2 attempts at writing a thesis statement, because without a thesis statement, you can't move forward. The good news is, once you have a solid thesis statement, really the paper almost writes itself. You have the structure set up once you have your thesis in place. Plus, you need my feedback in order to do the week 2 activity. So if you look at week 2, some of it's the same. Okay, there's another Achieve module to complete. There's this guy here, which is a research assignment. So yes, we're going to talk about this a little bit later. There is research you have to do for this assignment. But I'd like to start here with the journal response. So last week's journal was pretty down to earth, right? You had a couple prompts to answer, and they were mostly personal questions, like discuss challenges you've had in the past. How are you going to meet those challenges? I think the final question asked you what your plans for this month are. Are you going to start fresh, choosing a new ad from my approved list? Are you going to work with a previous ad from the last time you took this class, which you certainly can do, but 30% of your work has to be brand new. Because if not, you're just uploading an old file, and that's not really doing much. I think I also told some people that there's a benefit to starting completely fresh. I choose my ads not because I'm in love with the 7 ads that I put up, or 8 ads that I gave you to choose from. I chose those ads because I think there's a lot of things going on in each ad. And sometimes, well, actually, because I'm super familiar with those 8 ads, for students who are struggling to find their thesis. Remember last week I stressed the importance of 3s. We looked at 2 ads in the first lecture. A Jeep, actually we looked at 3 ads. A Jeep print ad. Remember, see whatever you want to see. I think I can bring that up real quickly. Where is it? It's in here. Okay, so is this guy here. Right? Remember, you don't see both halves at the same time, but it's revealing the visual trick of the ad. So we looked at this ad. We looked at another automobile ad, another print automobile ad for an MG convertible. That was the your mother wouldn't approve. And finally, we looked at a Diet Coke commercial. And if you remember, I stressed the importance of 3s, that you have to identify 3 moves that the ad makes. Sometimes the language in our materials call them tactics or strategies. I like the word moves because it's more down to earth. Plus, people can connect it to other things like athletics, right? A basketball player on the court makes moves. He doesn't just throw the ball up at the basket, or she doesn't just throw the ball up the basket. That's what I do. When I was in gym class, if I actually got the ball, it was like a game of hot potato. I just wanted to get rid of that ball as quickly as possible. So I'd either throw it to somebody else or just chuck it up at the near the backboard and hope for the best. But of course, athletes don't do that. They make moves on the court to increase their chances of successfully hitting net and nothing but net. Same thing with ads. Remember, I said that These companies, Jeep, McDonald's, Diet Coke, they turn to ad agencies and pay them millions of dollars to create ad campaigns. So no detail, no choice is accidental. So when we looked at the Jeep ad, I pointed out how this background choice is not accidental, right? That it's earth tone, this beige, khaki kind of color, and that it's texture that imitates like canvas or again khaki. That's not accidental either, because it reminds people of outdoorsy things like burlap, like khaki clothing, like canvas tents or the canvas top of a Jeep vehicle. And Jeeps, because they're outdoorsy, yeah, this background is fitting. So yeah, there's an example of where choice is not accidental. So one of the things I'm going to be looking for most in your worksheets is, yeah, those thesis statements. Sometimes students have great thesis statements and I just give it a rubber stamp and say, you're good to go. Other times they do have three things listed, but then I have to be the mean instructor and say, well, I'm not sure. You do have three things listed, but I'm not sure there are three super strong things, right? Ideally, you should be focusing on three interesting and revealing moves, like choices deliberately made in the ad that lead to discussion, that ideally educate your readers. Okay, the people who will eventually read your ad analysis essay. Like, I'm willing to bet that most people look at this ad and don't automatically think, "Oh, look at that background." Well, that's clearly being used because Jeep is an outdoorsy vehicle, and thus this background. No, no, no. They don't think about any of that. I would argue that subconsciously they do. But the great thing about ad analysis is that you're bringing these things to the forefront. Things that seem obvious once they're pointed out, but may not seem obvious when one person is just watching a commercial passively, or is flipping through a magazine, or is surfing online and comes across an ad, and again, is passively looking at the ad, because we don't really study ads. They sort of hit us. And that's why these choices are important, because we may not consciously see the choices being made, but we subconsciously um, notice them. Okay, so yeah, a big part of my job with your worksheets is to comment on your thesis and help you find your three strongest points. In some cases, yeah, students struggle with the thesis so much that they don't even have three things listed. So with those students, I remind them of what we discussed in week one, that their thesis must list three things. And here's why it's so important, because to even complete, oops, I didn't mean to open Safari, to even complete the week two journal, yeah, you need my feedback on your thesis on that worksheet. So let's look at the journal. This is different than the week one journal, which I said is mostly just you commenting personally. The week two journal isn't really much of a journal at all. It's a task. See, it says for this journal, we need to have the written thesis and three topic sentences. That's the task, okay? And I have some examples to show you. Um, and I know there's some confusing language in here somewhere, because I did get a message from a student saying there's something in the journal instructions for week two that mentions a template, and a template that was mentioned in the week one lecture. Here it is. Use the template from the week one go-to training. And I have to apologize for that. Yeah, I don't have a template in that week one, but I'm going to show you. You're essentially doing this example here, okay? This is an ad for McDonald's, another print ad. Very, very simple ad, right? Very, very minimalist, where these French fries are forming the Wi-Fi symbol. And even though this ad is very simplistic, here a person has crafted a thesis statement and three topic sentences. That's what you have to do, okay? So yeah, you don't need to use an actual template. You don't have to create something pretty like this. Here's what you need to do for the week two journal. You need to do this. I've done it twice for the two ads we looked at in week one. So here's the Jeep ad, Jeep thesis, okay? And here, let me even highlight the three thesis points so you can see them more clearly. And let me do it for the Diet Coke ad as well. Okay, this is the importance of threes. Remember, you have to identify three interesting and revealing moves that the ad makes. So let's look at the Jeep thesis. Through the use of simple color, playful imagery, and a double meaning tagline that reinforces theme, Jeeps See Whatever You Want to See ad appeals to the inner adventure inside everyone to unlock a hidden enthusiasm for Jeep. And you might remember last week I said there's kind of a formula for thesis statements, right? That it basically follows this formula. The blank ad uses blank, blank, and blank in order to blank. I mentioned this last week. I also think last week I complained about the Mac keyboards. I really hate these keyboards because they're so shallow. That's why I make so many mistakes. But even though this looks convoluted, the blank ad uses blank, blank, and blank in order to blank. You can see that it's really not that difficult because look, the Diet Coke ad uses sexually charged language. 1. Seductive music. 2. And slow camera movement. 3. In order to convince women to buy into the idea that drinking Diet Coke is as fulfilling as a heteronormative romance. Okay. So, and here I kind of reverse the form. So the ad is not mentioned until the second half, but that's fine too. Okay. So I begin by listing the three things. But next so you have your thesis in place and you hopefully have three listed things, and I'm going to be commenting on this when I grade your worksheets. That's why I'm under pressure to get these things graded by 5 p.m. tomorrow, because you need my feedback. I don't want people rushing ahead and completing the week 2 journal activity until they get feedback. And if you haven't gotten enough time, just hand it in Friday. Okay, I forget when it's due. Is it due Thursday or Friday? Um, but yeah, take the extra time if you need it, okay? Because you definitely need my feedback. Because then you're going to take each of these three things listed and form topic sentences. So, first issue, color. Okay, so we create a topic sentence. The Jeep ad is an exercise in simplicity, especially in its use of color. Maybe I should explain what topic sentences are. A thesis is typically the final sentence of what will be your introduction paragraph. Okay, so I think I showed this last week that I have written a sample essay based on that Jeep essay. Okay, that Jeep ad. So here's a sample essay. Here's my introduction paragraph, and then it ends with my thesis, because the introduction is like a general paragraph. It's setting up the essay. Okay, we don't just jump right into the middle of things and start analyzing the ad. No, we hold the reader's hand a bit and introduce them to the topic. So I talk about Jeep for a while, riff on the idea of the image of Jeep and what it brings to mind. I briefly describe the ad so that the general reader has some notion what the ad is about, and then my thesis. And then the ad pretty much writes itself, because the topic sentences are the sentences that begin your next 3 paragraphs. That's what we're aiming for here. 5 paragraphs and a general introduction that ends with your thesis. 3 body paragraphs, middle paragraphs in between. This is where you discuss each of your 3 thesis points in detail. So this entire paragraph is about color, my first thesis point. Thus, the topic sentence is kind of like the thesis for this individual paragraph. Does that make sense? So the thesis, it sets up the structure for the entire paper. It tells the reader, this is what we're going to analyze in this essay: the Jeep ad's use of color, imagery, and tagline. The topic sentences, yes, they set up the expectation of what the paragraph is going to be about. So here's a paragraph entirely about color. Here's a paragraph entirely about imagery. Here's a paragraph entirely about the ad's tagline. And finally, a short conclusion, where we echo the thesis, remind our readers where we've been, that in this essay, we've looked at the ad's 3 basic elements: color, imagery, and wording, and then a few sentences that bring it to a close. You will have access to this essay before the essay draft assignment comes. As a matter of fact, I typically give you this essay when I respond to your week 2 journal. So here's a refresher. This is all you have to do for the week 2 journal. I got 10 million things open, okay? Let me get rid of this so it doesn't cause confusion. Hold on. Okay. And you can do this simply in the text box. You don't have you have that text box or comments box underneath the activity. You can just type it in there. So you don't need to create a pretty thing like this. Some students do, but you don't have to. All I need is a thesis and 3 topic sentences built around those 3 things listed in your thesis. So that's what I've done here. Okay. Topic sentence number 1. Topic sentence number 2, which is imagery. Jeep's brand is reinforced through the ad's main conceit or trick, which is its playful use of imagery. Finally, I go to my 3rd issue. The Jeep ad's use of a clever double meaning tagline reinforces the theme of versatility, which is central to the Jeep's image or brand. And here's the second example. Okay, we looked at a Diet Coke ad. Remember, it had that funky music? that waka waka music. So the Diet Coke ad uses sexually charged language, 1. Seductive music, 2. And slow camera movement, 3. And then the rest of the thesis. So here are my 3 topic sentences. First issue is language. So here's the topic sentence that would set up such a paragraph. The ad begins with the sexually playful words, tall, dark, and handsome, setting a playful tone that will run throughout the commercial. Topic sentence number 2, we move on to our second point, seductive music. In addition to the ad's words, the commercial's upbeat, funky music also reinforces the ad's humorously sexual tone. Topic sentence number 3, setting up the final paragraph in our eventual essay, which will be about camera work. The subconscious connection between Diet Coke and sex is further reinforced by the ad's seductive camera work. So I'm still debating whether will send this out as a message that might be useful. So, because there is sometimes some confusion on this assignment about what to do. And it's a much simpler assignment than students realize. It really is literally give me your thesis and then write 3 topic sentences, 1 for each of the 3 things listed in your thesis. Okay, let me move on because I think I belabored maybe that explanation a little bit too much. But I do get worried because I want people not to be confused. Okay, so the other big thing to work on, we're going to spend the rest of our time talking about this, is the research assignment. So let's take a look at that. Yes, you have to do research for this essay. What do you research? You need to do research that's going to support your 3 listed points in your thesis. So for Jeep, it was color, imagery, and tagline. Okay, so I should ideally find something that relates to those 3 issues that I can use as support. And real quickly, if I go to the actual completed essay, so let me get rid of this. Okay, so here's the paragraph on the ad's use of color. Okay, and I know I'm getting a bit ahead of myself because you're not writing a draft yet. That's not until next week. But I just want to reinforce the idea of research and why you're beginning research now. It's because you need research to support each of your 3 analysis points. Okay, so here's the paragraph on the ad's use of color. And yes, I spent time describing how color works in the ad, but then I found 2 nifty quotes. Okay, in design, earth tones are, quote, usually reserved for backgrounds. I mentioned this last week, I believe. Okay, that's a cool quote because in the Jeep ad, it does use an earth tone and it's absolutely being used for the background. And then I found a second quote. Didn't have to use a second quote, but I found 2 very short quotes, so I used both of them. And while these colors may indeed largely be relegated to backdrop, quote, neutrals and browns are the epitome of nature. Also useful because the Jeep ad is using neutral or brownish colors, right? That beige or khaki color. And because Jeep is, yes, reinforcing its connection to the outdoors or nature, this short quote works well as also. Note that you can do this, by the way. You can take just a chunk, right? You don't have to take an entire paragraph, nor should you. Okay, we should be finding short quotations. Sure, take an entire sentence if the entire sentence is meaningful. But if what's really important from the sentence that you found in your research is only, say, these 4 words, and you can find a way to incorporate it into your own sentence, yeah, you can do that. Excuse me. Here's my paragraph about the Jeep's imagery. And so I found this nifty quotation that speaks directly about imagery in the ad. Of course, we'll talk about this next week. Don't mean to scare people, but next week's lecture is going to entirely be about APA. Or it won't be entirely about APA, but it will be, yes, we'll spend time talking about it. And I'll create in real time how to set up quotations. But here, yes, I lead into the quotation. The ad encourages viewer interaction, quote, for when it rotated, each of the vintage drawn animals becomes another species, leaving the viewer to choose which one he or she prefers, playing on their perceptions. And then I use that last word to kind of play off it, set up my next sentence. Perception is important, since the ad also wants to create a positive perception of the Jeep product. Okay, so boom. And here's the final paragraph on tagline. I didn't find research here about taglines, but because my analysis here was about how the ad is sort of making a double move. Because if you look at that Jeep ad with the reversible animal imagery, right? And the tagline says, see whatever you want to see. And that tagline is referring, yes, to the images, right? See whatever you want to see, a giraffe's head or a penguin. But it's also suggesting that in a Jeep, you can go wherever you want and see whatever you want to see, right? So that kind of double move that the tagline is referring to the ad itself and to Jeep at the same time. I argue because Jeep is often thought of as a versatile automobile. So yeah, I didn't do research into taglines. I did research into versatility. Um, so I found some nifty quotations about how, yes, versatility is often associated with Jeep. So the term versatility appears over and again in short histories about Jeep vehicles. And this guy, J.M. Fenster, writes that Jeep wartime creation was valued by soldiers for its versatility. And this other guy, Norm Norville, in his article, The Story of Jeep, says, quote, the Jeep has become one of the most versatile vehicles ever produced. Okay? And you have that flexibility. Okay? Like, yeah, I probably wasn't going to find terrific information about taglines. Or if I did, it would be something super generic. Like, taglines have been used in ads for centuries. I don't know. And yeah, I wanted to be more ambitious and find something more interesting. So that's your task, okay? You need 3 sources for your essay. And so this week's research outline, that's what we call the assignment that's due on Sunday, is you already doing that research. So yeah, it's not research into the product or the company. Okay, so if you chose the McDonald's ad, you're not going to do research on the company, McDonald's. You're going to find 3 sources that will reinforce what 3 things you're ultimately going to be analyzing the McDonald's ad. Okay, does that make sense? I sometimes worry if I'm not explaining these as lucidly as possible. Now, here's the good news. You need 3 sources. One has been provided for you. Okay, so it's this guy here. And I think it's been included in other instructions as well, but it's this video. Pathos, ethos, and logos in advertising. It's a general video about, yes, pathos, the appeal to emotion, ethos, the appeal to credibility or trust, and logos, which is the appeal to logic, and how those 3 elements can appear in advertising. Now, that's a pretty general video. So let's say, and by the way, for my Jeep essay, I didn't use that video at all. Okay, I found, and I went overboard. I only needed 3 sources, but I found 6. So yeah, I was a little bit ambitious. You don't have to find 6 sources. You have to find 3. Actually, you only have to find 2, because if you use this video, and I'm going to be a little bit flexible. I know that instructions tell you that you have to use this video. If you don't want to use this video and you just want to find 3 sources of your own that you like, I'm cool with that. Okay. But yes, those of you who are already frightened about research and think, well, I don't want to have to find 3 sources. If 2 is easier than 3, then yes, absolutely, you can use this video. But you have to find something in it that you can connect to one of your 3 thesis points. So if I were using this video for like the Diet Coke ad, and remember for the Diet Coke ad, the 3 things listed in the thesis are language, music, and camera work. Yeah, there's probably not going to be anything in this video that's super specific about those 3 things, but there's probably something general enough that I can tangentially connect it to one of those 3 issues. So that's your challenge if you use this video. And the research outline template, yes, we have a template you're going to complete. Has this already set up? It assumes you're going to complete information for this. So yeah, your challenge is to find something in here you can connect to one of your 3 thesis points, and then you just have to find 2 more sources. One should come from the Full Sail library database. Okay, and I'm going to show you because ever since they switched over, so it used to be called Full Sail Connect. Now it's called Full Sail 1. I think it's a cool name, Full Sail 1, but it's not as intuitive as the Full Sail Connect. So you're going to see me hunt for the library. But that will be useful because it will help you find the library. So yeah, this is what you get. And it used to be that there would be like a list of links here, including the library. Now you have to hunt for it. I believe it's under Learn. Okay, actually, I think they've improved it. I don't think it was this easy in the past. But okay, library, good. So you go to Learn, then Library, And now we need research databases. And this is where, yeah, things are a little bit hidden. I think you have to go over here and maybe about. Yes, if you go to about. Okay. So if we had to do that from scratch, it's learn, library, about, research databases. Okay. So let's click on there. Now you have a whole bunch of databases. EBSCOhost is a popular one. Okay, EBSCOhost is actually a giant umbrella that includes multiple databases, including Academic Search Premier, Business Source Complete. It has like a dozen or so individual databases, and actually here they are listed separately. Okay, but you can search all of them at once just by going to EBSCOhost. The other semi-popular one is LexisNexis, or formerly it was known as LexisNexis. Now it's called Nexis Uni. Okay. Nexus Uni tends to return results that are a bit more popular and down to earth, like newspapers, whereas EBSCOhost, it will return some of that, uh, but it will also search like more academic sources. So let me go to EBSCOhost, okay, because that's a popular place to begin. Now, a warning in advance. I already know how to enter in keywords to trigger a specific result. It's not going to be that easy for you. Okay. In fact, these 6 sources for my Jeep essay, this took me hours. Okay. Because again, my first thesis point for the Jeep essay was the Jeep ads use of color. So yeah, I wanted to find very specific quotations. Like I already knew what I kind of wanted to find. I wanted to find something about earth tones or beige as a color or khaki and its connection to either the outdoors or nature. So yeah, it wasn't just a matter of finding a generic quote about color is very important in advertising, end quote. I mean, you could do that, but that's not the richest or most ambitious quotation. So yeah, I had to search various color sites. Okay, so here I found one called Color Theory for Designers. Here's another one, Color and Emotion. What does each hue or color mean? So that was useful. Okay, so yes, finding the right sources, because it's kind of like a checklist. First, you have to find sources that may be relevant, but then you actually have to quickly, at the very least, skim or scan the source to see if there's anything useful in it. Okay, and sometimes you'll just strike out and say, I was hoping for something from that article, but it didn't result in anything. Okay, so we're in EBSCOhost. You can search all these databases at once just by clicking Select All and Continue. So I'm going to jump to a completely different ad. One of your approved ads is the Call of Duty ad. There's a soldier in all of us. And I can't remember if I mentioned this last week, but for those of you who are working on the Call of Duty ad, I'll sort of give you a hint that one important aspect of that ad is its choice of music. Okay, it uses a famous classic rock song by the Rolling Stones called "Gimme Shelter." And yes, yes, it's a super famous song. It's a classic rock song. It's upbeat, it's energetic, and sure, that's part of the reason why it was chosen. But lots of songs could have been chosen if all the ads creators wanted was an upbeat, well-known song, right? Like, why didn't they choose a Led Zeppelin song or a Beatles song or even a more contemporary song? Like, why that song? There's an answer. I was gonna say I think there's an answer, but no, I know there's an answer. Um, If you need a hint, think about when Call of Duty Black Ops is set. Okay, so yes, I already know what to enter, so I'm going to put Call of Duty and the name of the song, "Gimme Shelter." Okay, it's a song from 1969 from the classic Rolling Stones album, "Let It Bleed." Now we only get 3 results. Okay, look at the second one. Asymmetric creative insight, controversial Call of Duty video game ad scores high with young men, offends women. That might be a fascinating article, but that doesn't sound terribly interesting. Um, Actually, let me take a look at it though, just out of curiosity, because I've never taken the time to look at it. The ad definitely caught people's attention. The ad did better among males and females, but females under 35 reacted positively. Women 35 and older did not like the ad. Well, I mean, listen, if you're going to discuss the ad's diversity, like it's conscious choice to populate the ad with people of different colors, people of different gender, right? They're like, that's not an accidental choice. For example, women play video games at a higher rate than I think people understand or believe. There are women out there who play Call of Duty. So maybe this ad, like maybe this article would be interested in people writing about that. But yeah, if you're writing about the ad's use of music, this is not a terribly useful article. Oops. Uh, Playtime is just the beginning. Okay, but how about this one? Gimme Sales by Ann Donahue, Billboard Magazine. Let's take a look at that one. We only got 3 results. And like I said, you have to scan first. So this is a very short article. At first, it doesn't seem terribly helpful because it's mostly giving trivial facts, like the game sold 5.6 million copies opening day. Okay, that's interesting, but what does that have to do with the ad's choice of music? And remember, I think it'll remember when week 1 I said analysis is ultimately answering the question why. Why this? Why that? Why this color? Why this song? Why? If you're answering the question why, you're performing analysis. Okay, so remember also in the week 1 lecture I said ad analysis is not ad description. It's not ad summary. It's not ad explication, meaning you are going to explain in detail what the ad is about. Okay, because anybody who watches the ad can see what the ad's about. No, you are going to selectively examine 3 choices that the ad makes and explain why those choices are interesting, revealing, important. So yeah, at first glance, this doesn't seem to answer the question of why does it use the song "Gimme Shelter." It's got lots of trivia and factoids that "Gimme Shelter" sold well that week in iTunes. But okay, but here's stuff that okay, it's not answering the question of why this song, but it is sort of tangential or secondary evidence. Because look, Activision Vice President of Music Affairs Tim Riley. Um, Scoring, meaning obtaining the song for the ad, was no small feat. Right, wasn't easy for him. He had to fly out to New York, uh, meet with the people who held rights to the songs, and what's more, for the first time in Activision history, it allowed another company to make edits to the ad itself in order to obtain approval from the band members as well. So the Rolling Stones had to approve it. Okay, so this isn't answering directly the question of why is "Gimme Shelter" so appropriate for this ad. But it is sort of secondary evidence because it's very clear here. Activision wanted this song, not just any song. They wanted this song. Again, I would encourage, let's say, a student to still do more research. Just as I found 2 short quotes about color for my Jeep essay, you might be able to quote or reference 2 things when discussing the ad's use of music. But yeah, this I think is tangentially related. Because yes, they wanted this song. Again, I try not to spill the beans in these lectures, but anybody who's writing about Call of Duty and specifically the ad's use of music, uh, the big hint is think about again when the game takes place. If you know Call of Duty Black Ops, when does it take place? um, yeah, the interesting thing about ad analysis is when you look at the specific choices and decisions made, um, it can be eye opening. Like when you realize, oh wow, that it wasn't accidental. Like there's thought, there's decision making going on behind why they chose this song. Um, okay, so I might hold on to this article to use, and let me show you quickly the template. Okay, so I have it open somewhere. I got 10 million things open. I don't need that right now. Where? Here we go. Okay, so this is what you're going to fill out for Sunday. And most of it's pretty explanatory. You can fill in your name and my name, I hope. Again, basic questions: are you rebuilding or starting fresh? What's the name of the ad and the company the ad represents? Here, your thesis statement. Okay, so you're already going to get feedback from me by tomorrow 5 p.m. on your worksheet. By the time you hand in this on Sunday, there should be a solid thesis here. Okay, you will have had time to read my feedback, if need be, revise your thesis, so that when I start grading these next week, I will see a thesis that has 3 clear, strong points listed. Okay. Then it has some basic questions like what sorts of search terms, what are you going to look for? I've already given you part of the answer. You're going to research yes, those three things listed in your thesis. But what sorts of keywords will you use? Okay, so for the ad's use of music in the Call of Duty ad, sure, a very basic keyword might be music and advertising, but that's going to result in very, very general statements. Research into the song itself, like research into Gimme Shelter. Um, Again, I don't want to give away the quote unquote answer, but if you already know what I mean, but when I say the hint is think about when that game is set, that will open up keyword ideas. Okay, historical things. But here's the big stuff. Okay, so source number one. This is the Matt Rose No video. That's a video on pathos, ethos, logos, and advertising. Okay, so if you're going to use that video that's already been provided for you, watch the video. Find something in the video that you can connect to one of your three thesis points. And basically, you're just going to fill out some information. What is the author's name? Well, it's Matt Rose No. Copyright date, title, etc. Um, it gets into issues of APA. Okay, so here it asks for a reference. Now, it is next week that we are going to get into APA because I don't have time in this session to get deeply into APA. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to point you in the direction, in a couple of different directions, okay? So one place you can go to, and I'm going to type it in the chat for the people who are here live. It's called projectapa.info, okay? So people who are here live, you might want to click on that link and save it. Those of you who are watching at home, just go ahead and type projectapa.info into your browser, and you might want to bookmark it. This was made by a fellow full sail English instructor. And the cool thing about this site is it mostly just focuses on the stuff that you are going to need. So for Sunday's assignment, which is a research assignment, when it asks for a reference, okay, using the information above, create an ending reference. This means you are going to, go here, go to references, and find the appropriate reference. Now, the Pathos, Ethos, and Logos video is a YouTube video, and it should cover that, either under audio visual media or maybe social media. Let's see. Let's check out audio visual first. Okay, YouTube. So you're going to do this, okay? But you're going to do it for the Matt Rosano video. The second place you can turn to, well, you don't have it yet. I'm sorry. I was going to say is my sample essay, but you're not going to get that until later because you could just imitate. You know what? I'm going to send out this essay as an announcement because what you can do is also look at my references page and just imitate. For example, if you find a useful source, do the same thing. So author's last name, first initial, date goes in parentheses, then the article title, then the name of the publication, and then the URL. Okay, these come from the library database, but same thing. Author's name, year, title of the article. Here it's just called The Jeep. It's from American Heritage. Here's the benefit if you find something interesting in the library database is you can use the cite tool. Now, the cite tool does make mistakes, so be careful, okay? But yes, we can at least take it and then fix the problems. So APA, there we go. Now, it loves to put authors' names in all caps. That's not correct. Sometimes it puts article titles in all caps. That's not correct. Here it doesn't do that. But it does make one error. But okay, I'll take it anyway. Okay, so I'll just copy it. And then where's my template again? Right? So how does this work? Oops. So I could put that in there. All right, I'd have to clean things up, like this should not be in all caps. We'll get into this next week when we get into the specifics of APA, but APA, yeah, the reason why I'm going to devote time to this next week is that there are lots of very, very nitpicky rules in APA. For example, um, in MLA, the article title, yes, you would capitalize the first letter in all important words. If a little word appears like or the, you wouldn't capitalize. This keyboard drives me nuts. Uh, but in APA, the rule is we capitalize just as we would a regular sentence. So G in gimme would be capitalized because it's the first letter in a word, but the S in sales would not. Okay, but we'll get into those nitpicky things next week. Here's my promise to you: if you can do what I told you, either go to Project APA, find the reference type that matches. Okay, so this is for audiovisual, but some of you might find a useful article in the Full Sail Library database. Again, if you do that, you can just use the Cite tool. Or you can go to Project APA. Let's say you find something interesting online. Okay, so newspapers, magazines, databases. See, I don't know if it counts a web. Here, let's go here first. Basically, you find the type that matches. So if you found an article from an online newspaper just by Googling, yeah, imitate this. Okay. Here's my promise. If you can just find the reference example, either in projectapa.info or by using if you find something useful in the library database using its citation tool, or by looking at my paper, which I'll send out to you, right? This guy here. Do you feel confident that you can copy a basic reference, even if you don't get it 100% perfect? My promise to you is I'm not going to take off lots of points because things are not 100% perfect. Where I will take off points is if people are not following APA at all. Okay, that's my promise to you. Is I'll go easy on APA if you can promise me that you'll go to Project APA, that you'll take the time to find an example of what you need to do and imitate the example. And then next week, because I will devote space to a walkthrough of APA, so in real time, I will create in-text citations, I will create references, okay, and you'll get to see these steps in more detail. But for now, yes, just go to one of these examples and imitate the example. Okay, but there's one other thing you need to do. Okay. Where's my original? There it is. Okay, so you'll put in a reference, and then it says, in your own words, summarize the author's main point and most important support for that point. So you'll type at least 3 sentences. How do the ideas in this sort relate to the way one? I think that's a miss. I don't think that's correctly. I think it's supposed to say how do the ideas included in the source relate to the first of the advertising techniques you've identified in your ad. So you'll explain that. Um, but then, yes, you need to find 2 possible quotes from that source. So you need to find 2 things from the Rose and O video on pathos, ethos, logos, and advertising that you think you can connect to one of your thesis points. Okay. And again, it's kind of like your worksheet. The reason why I'm asking for 2 quotes is because, well, you might find 2 really good things. Or you might find 2 things and you're not sure which one's most relevant or which one's better. But I can weigh in and tell you, yeah, your quote here that you found, that's going to tie in nicely. But this other one, no, that feels off topic. And then you just repeat the process. Okay. Now it says retrieve from the Full Sail Library University Library database. Yes, go to the University Library database. You should find one of your 3 sources from there. But I'm open to that. If you can find 3 sources on your own from online, from Googling, I'm cool with that. They have to be good sources though. So no Wikipedia, no IMDb, no biography.com, no online dictionaries. Okay, basic definitions of words. That's not research. No quotation websites. Shakespeare once said that's not research. That's no. But if you can Google and find 3 quality sources that work to support your 3 thesis points, I'm fine with that. Okay. because sometimes students do struggle to find good stuff in the library database. Usually it's just a matter of if they spend more time, they'll eventually find something, but it can be frustrating. So yeah, I'm not against Googling for good results. By the way, Wikipedia itself, no, you don't quote Wikipedia, but there's nothing wrong with, for example, going to Wikipedia and typing uh, Gimme Shelter. That's the name of the song used in the Call of Duty ad. And going to the Wikipedia page. And we don't quote anything from here, but you can certainly go to the references, right? Look at that. A whole list of stuff. There must be something good in here. Um, you know, here's Jagger Remembers from Rolling Stone. Mick Jagger on the apocalyptic Gimme Shelter. Uh, Mick Jagger tells the story behind Gimme Shelter, right? So yeah, you can definitely use the references to find quality sources. And if you have any doubt what a quality source is, just reach out to me. Okay. In general, trust your gut. You can kind of sniff out what seems suspicious, what seems like it's written by someone who seems to know what they're talking about, and something that might have been written by a 12-year-old kid in his garage. Um, Obviously, publications that you've heard of, Time, general newspapers. And I'm pretty flexible. I mean, uh, CNN, you probably wouldn't find something from CNN, but I'm just saying, even fairly popular sources. But yeah, they have to be quality sources. Okay, they have to pass the muster of meeting most reasonable people's requirements for what would qualify as a thoughtful source that gives you helpful information. Okay, because that's what ultimately we're trying to do. If I go back to I know I'm jumping around a lot, but if I go back to the Jeep essay, right? I mean, ultimately, this is what we're trying to do, to find something to support what we're saying. So when I'm discussing the ad's use of color, yes, I feel confident about what I want to say about the ad's use of color, but it just gives my words more authority if I can prove what I'm saying, right? Because there might be some people say, well, maybe David's going off the deep end here, right? All this stuff about how the beige background reminds him of a burlap sack, a canvas tent, khaki clothing. Yeah, maybe that's, or Dusty Pass, Windswept Dunes. But then when I fold in research, that the color choice is no accident, because in design, earth tones are, quote, usually reserved for backgrounds. Okay, it reinforces what I'm saying. Same thing here, where I find a direct quote that speaks about the ad's imagery, and so on. So that's the goal here, okay? I do think that the research outline, it's probably, I don't know, some students have an easy time with it, some students struggle. I don't think conceptually it's a difficult assignment. I think what's difficult is spending the time to find three quality sources, or being able to, again, to connect the dots, to understand, not just to find three quality sources. And again, one has been provided for you if you wish to use it, that video, um, but to understand what kind of sources you're looking for, right? You're, you're trying to find, there's a reason why there are three sources, one for each of your three thesis points. Um, And it's the same thing, okay? So for source number two, it takes you through the same prompts. It asks for you to write down two possible quotes or ideas that come from the source, okay? So if it's a useful source, you should be able to find two things from it that you think are going to work really, really well. And then you repeat it a third time, okay? And this you can skip. Source four. If you're reusing old work, you're supposed to find a fourth source. I think that's a silly requirement, because why? No, no, no. I just need three sources from you. Okay. Um, one final thing, because we're 4 minutes away from the ending. I didn't cover this yet. I apologize. But when it asks for the quotes, yeah, you have to provide an in-text citation. So let me go to my example. Okay. So let's go back to this article. Gimme Sales. Like I said, this isn't the greatest article, but I said this stuff here is interesting. Okay. Um, Now, next week we'll get into paraphrasing versus direct quoting. I actually think that this information, this paragraph, works much better as a paraphrase because there's a lot of information here, and it makes no sense to just grab all of it and quote it. That's a lot to ask a general reader to read, and that's you just taking a whole bunch of stuff and saying, "Oh, wow, I'm just going to grab all of it." No, it's better to just retell this information in your own words. But if I had to quote, maybe this stuff here at the end is interesting. That for the first time in Activision history, it allowed another it allowed another company to make edits to the ad, and even allowed the band members, uh, the Rolling Stones, to get approval at all as well. So let's say I'm going to use that as a quote. Okay, so here's all you have to do. So here's the quote. Why is it not? There we go. Okay. So there's your quote, right? It appears in quotation marks. At the end, you have to put three things in parentheses. An author's last name, so Donahue, comma, space, year of publication, 2012, comma, space. And then for direct quotes, you always have to include a page or paragraph number. Now here, there are no page numbers because it's all just one page. This is why I say page or paragraph number. So we count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The quote that I've grabbed comes in paragraph 5. And so we use the abbreviation para, period, space, 5, close parentheses, period. Okay? So that's all you have to do. So let's say that you found a second quote that says, I'm just going to make up a quote that says blah, 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 end quote. Same thing. Smith, last name, year of publication. Let's say this is from 2014. And let's say this did have page numbers. Okay, page 42. Okay, so the abbreviation for paragraph is para, period. Abbreviation for page number is P, period. Okay. So, and again, you can go to projectapa.info and simply go to in-text citations and go to formats and just imitate. Okay. We're going to get into this next week. There are actually two different ways you can handle in-text citations. So I just explained this one. Okay. So yes, just go to Project APA, imitate this example. Or I'm going to send out the Jeep essay so everybody can already have this. You can also go to the Jeep essay and just imitate how I handled it. Okay, same thing. And again, my promise to you is, as long as you're trying to follow APA, as long as I see a citation that kind of looks like this, or a reference that more or less looks like this, okay. If you get small details wrong, like sometimes students leave out punctuation or they don't handle the date quite right, yeah, I'm going to go easy. Points will be taken off when you just don't attempt APA at all. Okay, does that make sense? Everybody okay with that? Bernie, does that make sense? Because I always feel bad because you get a grade for APA, it's worth 20 points, and yet we don't have time in the week 2 lecture to cover with care. And as I said, I refuse to make these sessions go beyond an hour. It's just torture to make students sit through an hour and 45 minutes. And I love my work colleagues. I know I've been saying things that make it sound like I do love them. I really do. But no, an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes, that is too long. Okay, so yes, go to projectap.info, go to my example that I'll send out. Also, in-text citations, like if you have a works by 2 or more authors, then click on this guy here. Okay, and again, imitate the example. If you have unknown authors or works with no dates, okay, so Project APA covers everything. But please just take the time to go there and imitate the example when it comes to the sections on the research outline that ask for references and citations that you have to include with your quoted information. Okay, so we're actually probably about 4 minutes early. So I will open up things to questions or comments if people have them. If you don't have any questions or comments, you are free to go and enjoy the rest of your evening. I thank you so much for attending, and I will see you next week at the same time. Trying to think, did I forget to cover anything? I don't think so. Thank you, Bernie. That's very kind. This is the toughest lecture. This is one I feel least confident about because it's difficult to explain. The research outline isn't that difficult. You just got to find three sources to support your three thesis points and pull some quotes from them. But I don't know. There's something about our documents that could be more streamlined or simpler because they do feel like they're more difficult to explain. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording because it looks like we don't have questions that will benefit the larger audience that's going to be watching this at home. So, to those of you watching at home, I thank you so much. I'm stopping the recording now.